Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast, a podcast you come to when you're finally ready to take fantasy hockey seriously. My name is Nibbelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G draft strategy. In the show, Evan and I are going to break down the most puzzling players league wide as determined by the Apples and Ginos Discord server. Let's get it. Welcome on in, everybody. It is a guest edition of Puzzling Players. Evan, how are we feeling?
Good, man. Good. Probably a little bit better than you. Seems like. Just excited to be here, man. Love this segment. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's always a good time. Get together with the people of the YouTube, take some comments, some questions, and we'll get to biz. That's what we do. We will also, try to make sense of some of the most puzzling players. The first one on the list today is none other than Cutter Goche, most requested player in the Apples and Ginos Discord server. Only 2 goals in his last 5, under 17 minutes average time on ice, 66 shots per 60, but 270th in individual expected goals for per 60 and 273rd in on ice expected goals for per 60. They have been doing some funky stuff with the lines, trying to get different people incorporated. Mikhail Granlund came back, and that seemed like it kind of threw the clear top 6 into question. So do you have a reason to believe that things might be changing for Cutter Goche here, Evan?
I still think he's elite, and I think he's going to continue to score goals. It is kind of concerning what they're doing with these lines, and I really don't like Cutter Goche on PP2, which makes zero sense to me. Your top goal scorer there, but I do like how they have him up, they did for a period of time on the top line with Leo. Then they moved him back. That line with McTavish and Beckett Seneca really kind of cooked as well. But yeah, rest of season I'm not too worried about him, but I'd like to see consistency for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I think he's been pretty consistent, his play. Maybe this last little bit, the underlyings are not as good as you would hope, but I think he's actually been pretty consistent. He has been shuffled around a bit, and basically, when he's been with McTavish and Seneca, which he was in this last game, and it looks like he was on what you would call generally the top power play unit, the Kreider, Terry, Carlson, Lacombe unit. He was on that unit. It's just that the other unit ended up with more ice time at the end of the game, so kind of looks like he got less than power play 1 deployment. I think that's a one-off. I really doubt they're going to rock Ryan Strome and Pavel Minchikov as power play 1 for the rest of the year, so I'm not feeling too worried about that one. But definitely they have tried some different stuff. Goche's been up on power play 1, off power play 1, and it's definitely a spot where he's taking a step back from the scorching early season start. But again, if you're in one of these spots, he's still 3rd in the league in shots per 60 on the year. If you're at a league that values those shot contributions, then he's got that extra bit of value there. It's just a spot to me where, yeah, maybe he's not going to be a point per game player, especially if the ice time is going to be closer to 17 minutes now, now that they're fully healthy up front than it was before in the 18 plus minute range when they were being a little bit more sparse and leaning a little bit more heavily on the top 6. So, yeah, there's some paths that don't lend itself to this 41 goal, 82 point pace that he's on right now, where that could come down over the course of the season. But at the end of the day, this is a guy who's ripping the puck just as often as anybody around the league. And I just can't be mad at that. I just think that that's such a valuable thing to have on your team. And that lends itself to consistency. If the guy that you have is a guy who can score and is ripping the puck as often as Cutter Goche is, I just have so few worries about that long term that I'm pretty willing to just kind of overlook any short-term slow patches. We got random reviews in the comments. Let's go, boys. Appreciate you being here. Let's keep going with Roman Yossi. just 3 assists in his last 5, close to 22 minutes a night, 50th in shots per 60, 27th in individual expected goals for per 60, 79th in on ice expected goals for per 60 over the last 5. If you prorate his stats over 82 games, it's a 7 goal, 53-point pace for him so far. 14th shots per 60, 6th individual expected goals for per 60, 16th on ice expected goals for per 60. All that looks pretty good. The weird part is like Nashville's actually been doing pretty well for themselves as of late, and Yossi's got a couple of assists to show for it. It seems like he's not as much the engine of this offense as he has been in the past. Like in the past, he's been that guy like Zach Werenski is for Columbus. And do you think that we're just kind of in a new era now, Evan, where Roman Yossi is not that dude anymore? Or do you think that it's still in the tank and it's going to come out at some point? Where are you at with Roman Yossi?
Yeah, I think I'm a bit disappointed as a Roman Yossi drafter. I probably would have had him even in more spots if I could have to start the season. But yeah, to say the least, it has been disappointing. He missed that time. He's come back. He's been serviceable, like decent, but definitely not what you would expect as like a bounce back candidate from the year before. Nashville is starting to cook, and it is weird that he hasn't gotten in on more of that production, like the Philip Forsberg and Stamkos resurgence. I'm also kind of concerned with like the Predators being sellers too, like getting rid of Ryan O'Reilly or some of their other forwards at the deadline, and then he's going to have less people to pass it to or less, kind of options on the power play. I do like Evangelista, what he's doing, and some of their other younger pieces. Even Blankenberg has shown kind of spots where he's looked better, but yeah, as a whole on Roman Yossi, I'm very ho-hum. Rest of season, like this 55, maybe like a 60-point pace would probably be my like optimistic expectation.
Yeah, I'm kind of living there too. Like I think where he's at right now in the season, this 53-point pace, it could maybe get a little bit better. Like maybe scores a few more goals. He's only shooting 3.6% on the season. So yeah, he could be more in that 10 to 12 goal range instead of the 7 goal pace that he's on. Be more in that 55 plus point range than the 50 to 55 that he's in right now. Like we're not talking about a huge ceiling upside that we're envisioning for Yossi right now. And I think yeah, there is just a chance that we have seen the best of Roman Yossi, and that's now a little bit in the rear view. That's something you at least have to take into consideration here. The underlying stats on the season look really good. I just don't know if he's needed to do that necessarily in this version of the Nashville Predators. And so it also might just be a little bit of a different role than he's been used to in years past as well, where he's not in on as much of the scoring there in Nashville. Let's go back to the comments. Michael's here. Happy holidays, fellas. If you had to stream a Kraken forward for the week until Leo C is back, who would you go with? All are available. Cats League, goals, assists, shots on goal, hits, and power play points. Cheers as always. Anybody top of mind there, Evan? I think I've got my guy.
I normally like to say Eberle in these cases. Top line, top power play, shoots the most. We'll probably get the most power play points and goals. It's weird. I always so I go Jordan Eberle, and then it's like Matty Beniers and Chandler Stevenson. Even though Chandler Stevenson never shoots the puck or does anything, like whenever I choose between the two of them, the other guy will go off that week. Yeah. Right now it's Chandler Stevenson. Might be Matty Beniers this week, but I'd say Eberle. Who you go with, Nate?
Yeah, Eberle is usually the guy for me as well. Actually does hit a little bit underrated part of his game too. If you're looking to lean a little bit more into the hits, you could go with Eeli Tolvanen, who's been a fixture on Power Play 1 as well. Could get you some power play points to go along with some big-time hit numbers, decent amount of shots, maybe some goals here too. So Eeli Tolvanen could also be a look. Obviously a different brand of player than either Beniers or Stevenson. All right. Bugstud is here. Bacora's asking, how do Larkin and Forsberg look under the hood? We could throw those two in here. Why don't you tell us how Dylan Larkin's looking, though, Evan? You've been watching any Dylan Larkin lately?
Yeah, it's been kind of frustrating, actually. It's been the Maurice Sider and Andrew Kopp show over there recently in Detroit. So, yeah it's kind of strange. Like, I mean, him and Lucas Raymond, like I feel like something's a little off in their chemistry. Like, and honestly, I as a Wings fan, I'll say it. It's like whenever Patrick Kane is out of the lineup, I do not trust like the team. The power play, like everything looks so different. Like he's
Mm.
just such an engine of that team, like underrated. Like, but that second line with him, DeBrincat and Kopp were absolutely getting to business. And yeah, without him, like it's kind of been strange. They have been winning, but yeah, Dylan Larkin has been disappointing, and I have him in a spot. So yeah, I want him to shoot the puck more, and I want him to kind of do what he is supposed to do. So yeah, it'd be nice to see.
Yeah. Let's look at the stats here on Larkin then. 1 goal in his last 5, over 21 minutes a night, 200 shots per 60, 54th in individual expected goals for per 60, pretty good. 71st in on ice expected goals for per 60. On the season, it's a 40 goal, 75-point pace. And the underlying stats are even better on the season, and nothing looks too unsustainable there for me on the season. I do agree, especially for that power play. Patrick Kane does make a pretty big difference team wide, and it really does kind of round out their top 6 as well. So that definitely makes sense to me what you're saying there about Kane being absent. Overall, I don't think I have a ton of concern about Larkin at this point unless this extends into something longer, but even these expected goal numbers give me some decent reason to believe that this is just a little bit of a blip on the radar, especially with that deployment. For Forsberg, I mean, Forsberg's a stud. 5 goals, 7 points in his last 5, 17 and a half minutes average time on ice, even. Like he's not even getting the full treatment that way. 19th shots per 60, 18th individual expected goals for per 60, 76th and on ice expected goals for per 60. He's now up to a 37 goal, 66-point pace. He did this last year too. Slow start last year. We were telling people to buy low on him, and then he ripped it the last half of the year and was an absolute stud. So hopefully you got Philip Forsberg in your life this year. Again, I am expecting more of the same rest of the season. I think my original projection on Philip Forsberg probably stands true today. How are you feeling about Forsberg at this point?
Yeah, he's unreal. I played him in a matchup last week and was like pounding the table. It's just, it's unbelievable. He, along with the Nashville Predators, heating up, but yeah, the buy low window on him is gone, I feel like.
Yep. New feeds us with Jack Hughes back. Was planning to drop Landy, but given his recent line 1 bump, Landeskog or Fiala. Starting to lean on dropping Fiala instead. 10 team. Goals are 3.25. Assists are 2. Power play points 1.5. So pretty high weight there. Short-handed points 2. Shots on goal, hits, blocks, plus minus all 0.25. So relatively low weighting on the peripherals there. It's pretty much all about the points and pretty good power play point weighting there as well. I see where you're coming from. And I mean, far be it from me to besmirch the name of Gabriel Landeskog, or B, talk well about a Jim Heller-led Los Angeles Kings team. But yeah, I think Landeskog is still at risk. Like, I don't think he's a lock, right? To remain line 1, to remain power play 1. There's a very real scenario in which we wake up 2 weeks from now and Landeskog is line 3, power play 2. And that world just doesn't exist for Fiala. So from a risk perspective, Fiala is the less risk long term to hang on to. But Landeskog could have a very real ceiling that Fiala might not be able to access this year, even in terms of just raw point production, just based on the absolute unit that is the Colorado Avalanche this year. How are you feeling about this one, Evan?
Yeah, I think it's Fiala all day. I like what Landeskog is doing right now and his deployment, obviously. But as you said, I feel like that's subject to change. Although with the Avs power play struggling and them actually getting 2 power play goals yesterday, I feel like they're going to stick with the unit they had, which is like Brock Nelson, Landeskog, Nikas, McKinnon, and Makar for now. But yeah, like you said, it's a rotating door there. So Fiala's spot is much more secure.
All right. Brunor 78. Hello, guys. 8-team Cats League. Let me know your opinion on Svechnikov and Nyes, please. Let's throw those two in here. Svech and Nyes. Nyes has been mired in the slump that is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Svechnikov has 6 points in his last 5 games here. The underlying number's not quite as hot. this might be a little bit of a similar situation if you're trying to compare these two players, where Nyes has the role lockdown. Svechnikov is hot currently and getting the role currently. Seth Jarvis being out for a little bit could mean that Svechnikov's role is a little safer. You could look at it that way. I don't think anything is safe under Rod Brind'Amour, though. That's my opinion. But how are you feeling about Svechnikov and Nyes? Would you compare the two at the moment, or would you lean one way or the other rest of the season?
I'd still rather take Nyes. I think the Leafs can't get any worse than they are right now, so it's only going to get better, I think, for Nyes. And like his spot with Matthews and on that power play is good. Svech, like I feel like Rod hates Svech, like he really does, and like he's taken a few penalties in the last few games. The only reason he can't bump him down the lineup is because Jarvis is injured now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Svech has been playing well recently, but rest of the season I'd take Nyes.
Yeah, I think I would take Nyes, but it's definitely close at the moment. But yeah, the Rod Brind'Amour factor really throwing me for a loop there. Also, like, I have to think that any Craig Berube firing that may come over the next few weeks, I don't know that it's coming. They fired the assistant coach today, which I feel like is just like throwing up something, be like, hey fans, look, we did something. And everybody's like, really? That's the thing? Yeah. And then they didn't replace him. Like they fired the power play coach because the power play is so bad, but they didn't replace him. So like they're gonna use somebody else inside the organization who ostensibly could have been offering advice already. I don't get it, man. But yeah, such is life as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. But all that to say, if Greg Berube were to be fired, I do think it would be a just a weight off the shoulders of this team at this point, and that would be plus for Nyes as well. So I do agree. I don't think it can get much worse. Steve asks, can you guys share any advice on fantasy this time of year in general? Listen all season, bought low on point. Miller Forsberg as suggested during this time of season. How do you continue? I think really at this point in the season, it is really about continuing on. At some point, you start to flip into playoff preparation mode if you're looking good for playoffs. I've said it a lot of times before. If your league has a bye, that should always be your number one priority. That's the biggest thing you can do towards cementing a championship for yourself in the regular season is getting yourself into a bye position. That's worth selling out for. In my opinion, it's worth more than squeezing your playoff roster to get like an extra game played or an extra off night to trade this guy for that guy to get that extra off night. Like you can do that, and that's not a bad thing to be doing in general, but the buy to me is the most important thing if your league has it. So that's what I'm looking for first and foremost, trying to get to that point. At this point, though, I think you're just continuing on. You're still in the middle of the season here. You don't want to look too far ahead, in my opinion, at this point, and let other people catch up to you if you take your foot off the gas. I don't know. Do you have anything more specific for this time of year, especially Evan?
No, I like that. I think with him buying low on Point, Miller, and Forsberg, that's amazing. I mean, congrats. And I think really like a lot of people too, if you've gotten those kind of players and you've already kind of won some trades, I always say too, you don't want to trade yourself out of success. Like don't make trades just to make trades, like you said, to get like an extra playoff game in like 1 or 2 weeks. Like, if you've got another like rest of your lineup looks good and stacked, like keep them and just kind of like work the waivers and try and get your team to the bye, like you said. So yeah, I like everything about that.
Absolutely. Puckside wants to talk about Byfield, Coronado, Perfetti, Monahan, Heineman. Puzzling. I can only afford to keep 2 to 3 of them at this rate. Heineman, you can definitely get rid of. That was a flash in the pan, in my opinion. Perfetti hasn't really done anything all year. I think probably he figures it out a little bit at some point, but that's another player I don't think you need to be hanging on to. That leaves Monahan, Byfield, and Coronado for me. They're all in a similar situation. Coronado, I think, is the safest. I think he's the guy that is going to at least shoot the puck and is going to be like Calgary needs this guy to be something, even if he's not like an elite top line player. They need him to be like a second line power play one kind of guy on this team at the very least. So he feels honestly the safest to me at this point. Byfield, I don't know what to tell you what's going on with Quentin Byfield. Of course, as I say that, he'll probably pop off for like 4 points tonight in the late game after we record. But yeah, such is life. For me, Coronado is maybe slightly ahead of Byfield and Monahan at this point. How about you, Evan? Do you have a different ranking of these players?
No, I say Coronado number one, Byfield number two, Monahan number three. They've been bumping Monahan down the lineup though, and Fantilli's still PP1, so Monahan's losing a lot of value.
Mm-hmm.
Perfetti is straight drop for me everywhere. Like I remember, like in the offseason, we're like, oh, he's gonna take PP1 and he's gonna get maybe 55, 60 points. Like he's done nothing. So
Yeah.
and yeah, Heineman on the Islanders, it doesn't get me excited at all.
All right. Stardoom 17. Hey guys, how do you usually approach having first waiver priority? Feels like I'm always waiting for the diamond that never comes. Should I just burn it on a guy on a hot streak like Stamkos? Um, Overall, I don't know. I was thinking of two different ways to go with this one. I I don't view it as like the most important thing. If you want to hold on to it just to because you think there's that one idiot in your league who might drop some guy if they go too cold for too long, I don't mind that strategy and just using your normal pickups outside of the waivers to get everybody else. But also, like, if there's a guy out there that you think is going to help you win a week and you need to win a week, then I'm going to use it. I'm not going to sit around waiting for some, mythical scenario to arise in which I can actually use my first waiver priority. I want to get players that I think are going to help me win matchups at the end of the day. So I am all about using all of the tools available to you all the time to try to win every week of the fantasy season. So I'm generally in favor of using it more than not using it, I guess is what I'd say. How about you, Evan?
Yeah, you don't really want to hold it. Like you said, like how often is that going to happen in the entire year where you are saving it and then it actually works and you get this, banger of a guy? I don't understand. Yeah, I would use it.
All right. Steve says, talk to us about Duchesne. Do we have to hold till he heats up? Um, I I don't think you have to. Like, the underlying stats are fine. And they're not anything to write home about. He's not a big time shooter, but I don't think he's ever been like the biggest of shooters. But like he was getting some good looks in the last game alongside Rantanen and Johnston. Like I'll take that in terms of the deployment, right? So if you're able to hang on to him, this is a week where it doesn't really matter that much to hang on to some players somewhere. Maybe there's another guy you can drop for this week and just see what happens this week with Duchesne. If it's to the detriment of your team and there's somebody out there who's going to help you win a week, again, like I would make that move. I'm pretty ruthless when it comes to cutting players, even players who've been good for me. If they're not going to help me this week and somebody else who's out on the waiver wire, I really do believe is going to help me win this week, then I will absolutely cut that player. So I do think you can cut him. I just think there's still a pretty good chance that Matt Duchesne does have a pretty good rest of season left in him. And I don't want to just get rid of him too early, especially in a week like this where it's probably not going to matter at the end of things. If Duchesne is like pretty clearly the worst player on your roster and it's not even close, like there's nobody else that you consider dropping, then yeah, like to use your streamer spot, I would drop him. But that's where I'm at. How about you? Where are you at with Duchesne, Evan?
I'm a little more down on Duchesne. I think that like a lot of people like Blake like hating on him for years. Like this is the year I think he could have probably hated on him because I think there's two things going against him. I think one, this concussion that he came back from, he said it was the hardest thing he ever had to do, like rehab wise. Like I think it is taking him some time to get readjusted. I also think the lineup is an issue. Like they're really kind of leaning on the top two lines. And when he's been there with Rantanen and Wyatt Johnson, that's a good spot to be. But they've also been bumping him down to like the third and fourth line occasionally. And not being on PP1, like they're really, that PP1 is so dangerous. And like last year, PP2 was almost just as dangerous with Sagan and Ben and Harley. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see this like 70 to point per game pace Matt Duchesne like we saw last year. I think he could like pace for like 60, 65 at some point during the season once he kind of gets healthier and he does settle into the lineup. But I don't think I'm holding him just for that. Like you said, if he's like the worst player on your team or kind of close to that, if you can get some more streams in.
Right. These two, hey boys, please rank Cider, McAvoy, Lacombe, Carlson, Jones, points bangers with Pims, aiming to include one in a trade. Carlson will be last for me. McAvoy is probably next. Then, then Jones, then Lacombe, then Cider. After that, it gets harder for me. Where are you at?
So yeah, best to worst. I think you did it reverse. Best to
I
worst for
did.
me. I'll go Cider, Lacombe. Uh, I'll probably take Seth Jones, yeah, and then McAvoy Carlson. It's weird because John Carlson's actually really killing it recently, like even strength, which
Yeah.
he's not getting the power play time, but he's still doing it. But in a point like a bangers league with Pims, yeah, you want the other guys first.
All right. Seth Jones looking sad on my points team. Any chance for improvement? We can look at his underlying stuff for a moment. Been known to do that from on occasion. Still got 3 assists in his last 5, 25.5 minutes average time on ice. That'll play 29th shots per 60, 77th individual expected goals for per 60, 30th on ice expected goals for per 60, 12 goal, 47-point pace on the season. Underlying stats look fine. Yeah, I think Seth Jones is pretty good, even in points league. I would definitely suggest hanging on to him. Callie, hey gentlemen, 12-team Banger Cats League. Would you drop one of the following for Nelson? Norris, Zucchini Man, Jenner, Tolvanen. Note that I need Bangers, very soft team. Thanks. I already answered this question in a different place today, so I'll toss it to you, Evan. What do you got?
I would hold Norris. If he really needs the banger cats, then you could drop Zuccarello, although I like him for PP1 there. Yeah, I think you could easily drop Jenner or Tolvanen, one of the two. I think for me, I would definitely consider dropping Tolvanen for Nelson.
All right. Question: does Nate have hair? No, it's all a myth. That's why I wear hats, is to disguise the fact that I have no hair.
Toughest question we've gotten so far.
Yeah, definitely. I traded Stone, got Bratton returned yesterday. Trade process is on Christmas Eve. Did I win this trade? Your thoughts, Evan?
That's a really tough one. I'm going to say yes, only because I think that, I'm sorry, I don't think, I know Stone is going to get injured at some point rest of the season. So yes, because you're going to get more total fantasy points. And I think that with Jack Hughes being back, Jesper Bratt will start to get to work here as well.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think I talked a bit about Bratton, how I think that actually he does need Jack Hughes a little bit more than we thought. He had like that one really good stretch without Jack Hughes last year, and that gave me hope that he was, gonna take another step and just kind of be his own dude who could do everything, score goals. He just doesn't seem to be able to score goals on his own. Which is obviously a pretty concerning attribute for a guy that you want at the top of your fantasy lineup. That being said, I think with Hughes back, I think this team should get cooking at some point. They have a lot of good offensive defensemen. The top 6 is getting back together. I think Artseni Gritsiuk might actually be a little bit of the missing piece that they needed in that top 6. And if they can get that wagon rolling, I think it could be pretty exciting for Devils. So I think I agree with you there. All right. Rest of season projection for Braden Point after his slow start. Braden Point has been pretty decent as of late, and I'll tell you my rest of season projection for Braden Point. It's 43 goals, 46 assists, 89 points per 82 games played. That's because that's exactly what I projected him for at the beginning of the season, and I think he's just kind of back to where we thought he'd be at the beginning of the season. So that's where I'm at as of right now. That being said, Kucherov seems like he might be a little bit banged up. He's a little bit in and out, quote unquote illnesses taking him out of the lineup here or there. So if Kucherov were to miss any time, that would be a pretty substantial ding in points rest of the season projection. But I do think Point will be a point per game plus player rest of the season. Where are you at with Braden Point?
Yeah, I agree. I traded for him in a spot and was really happy with it. Hoping he gets to work here in this game, actually. But yeah,
Right.
I agree with you.
Lucio Mancuso, hey gents, what are the most recent trades you've made in your leagues? Have you made any recently, Evan, that you've thought about, or are we putting the cart before the horse? Are we going to blow up your spot for trade talks here?
No, no, yeah, it's I traded I traded Morgan Geeky and Adam Fantilli for Quinn Hughes in the league. Felt really happy about that, especially after the
That's
trade to
very nice.
Minnesota.
That's huge.
Um, that's probably my most recent that I can think of that has worked out. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, you're gonna keep the ones that didn't work out offline, eh? That's
Yeah,
smart. Yeah, I
gotta
like
play
that.
the part here.
Yeah, for myself, I traded Matthew Kachuk back on December 6th. I traded Matthew Kachuk for Clayton Keller. Um, just needed the points now, basically, is where I was at. And Clayton Keller hasn't been great since then, but still not too mad at it. I think there's a pretty good chance that Matthew Kachuk comes back and isn't like just instantly Matthew Kachuk again after sitting out half the year. So yeah, I still am not too mad about that, even though Keller hasn't been amazing. All right. Hey, Nate, feel better soon. Appreciate that. Have a defenseman whose value could sharply change by playoffs. Rest of the season, how would you rank McAvoy, Radish, Rasmus Anderson, and Hamilton Banger Cats without blocks? Thank you. That does change things a little bit. Um, yeah, because Anderson is a big time blocker. McAvoy obviously does that, but he also hits. Radish doesn't do a lot of those things. Hamilton doesn't do a lot of anything currently. This is a pretty tough list, actually, when I'm starting to break it down. I'll toss it to you first, Evan. Where are you at?
Bangers Cats makes this harder, yeah, without blocks. I think I have to. I know it sounds crazy. I think I'm going to go Radish number one just because of what he's doing, and I think that you still value the points there above anything. And he's shooting a lot too, actually, even though they're not hitting the net. His goal today went off of Justin Falk. So, but I'll go Radish, McAvoy, Anderson, Dougie.
Radish, McAvoy, Anderson, Dougie. I think I'm in alignment. I think Anderson might fall off a little bit here. I could see the appeal of Anderson over McAvoy, but also Anderson could get traded to somebody who doesn't need him to be power play one or skate quite as many minutes, and that could also kind of submarine Anderson's fantasy value a bit. So I could see you flipping Anderson and McAvoy there. Hey, Jets rank these three high ceiling with shots on goal, hits, blocks. Terry, Norris, Landeskog. For highest ceiling, I mean, the ceiling case I think is Landeskog for me. In if you got, I guess it depends on the weightings in a points league for shots on goal, hits, and blocks. If the weighting is pretty high on those peripherals, I think it might be Landeskog actually. If it's pretty light, then you lean back to more towards Terry, who I think could be a point per game this season. Norris is obviously doing terrific. It's really about how much you trust him and his shoulders held together with tissue paper. But where are you at with this one, Evan?
Yeah, no, agree 100%. I think Norris went into the boards a few games ago, and I was like, well, there he goes, rest of the season. But he somehow got back up. I didn't understand that, but yeah, I agree with it.
All right. Nizer Dorofeev, standard Yahoo points with 0.5 for hits instead of plus minus. That's tougher than I thought it would be. I think I'm still going nice there, though. Agreed?
Nice. Yep,
All
agree.
right. Should I trade DeBrincat, Raymond, or Larkin because I'm worried for playoffs having 3 Red Wings in first place currently? 3 is a lot, especially amongst like the fact that they're all forwards. Like if 2 of them are forwards and one was a defenseman or something like that, or one of them was goalie, then obviously it'd be an entirely different matter. 3 forwards who are all Red Wings, I think, is a lot. I don't think you should like panic trade one of them. I think you should, if you can get fair value for one, though. I think I would investigate that option for myself personally. How about you, Evan? Is 3 too many?
You never can have too many Red Wings on your team, and you know there's a reason that you're in first place, best kept secret. So you know, my advice would be no. I think you hold DeBrincat because he's really lighting it up this year. I think if you want to move off of Larkin or Raymond and get fair value for him, then you could consider it.
Right. We're going to have to come back to the comments. They're too fast and furious. We need to get through some of these puzzling players. We only got through two before we got back to the comments. So let's get into it. Chandler Stevenson, 4 goals, 6 points his last five. I think I saw it's an 8-game point streak for Chandler Stevenson heading into tonight's game against the Ducks. Over 20 and a half minutes average time on ice. 81st in shots per 60 over this 5-game stretch for Chandler Stevenson. This is a guy who's historically shot at like less than 1 shot per game. And here he is just pumping pucks. Who would have thought? 62nd in on ice expected goals for per 60. That's not a bad look. Obviously, the Kraken, with all the injuries they've sustained, McCann, Schwartz, now Brandon Montour's out for 4 weeks. They are just dying to have somebody do anything. And so if Stevenson is doing stuff, like he's going to get all the minutes that he can handle. And so, I don't know, are we into Chandler Stevenson in a week when Seattle's one of the few teams that has a couple off nights?
383rd on the season for individual expected goals for per 60. I know that gets you going. I am not in on Chandler Stevenson. You can ride him for the hot streak here during this week, but outside of that, it's tough.
All right, that's fair enough. Vincent Trocheck, if 383rd wasn't good enough, 389th individual expected goals for 60 for Vincent Trocheck. Just astonishing how bad that number is, especially given how much he's played with Panarin on the year. It's not like his deployment has changed all that much this year. There's been times, I guess, when he's been away from Panarin, but still 21 minutes a night. In the last little bit, 23 and a half minutes a night, like playing a ton. The metrics are coming up a little bit, I will say, in the last 5 games here. He's only got 2 points to show for it. The metrics are starting to turn in the right direction. The Rangers have obviously been just an absolute gong show in the last little bit, just as a team. So where does that leave us with Vincent Trocheck at this point in the season, Evan?
Yeah, it is weird. He's not shooting like he normally does. Like I feel like he normally shoots a bit more. I have to wonder if like I've watched a fair amount of Rangers games because I have so many of them in so many spots, and he doesn't look like, I feel like he's that guy, like, you know, the water bug on the ice, just like gets into the, you know, the corners, hits, forechecks the puck, and he's really not doing that. He's almost looking like fatigued, or, you know, like he's just not, you know, as into the game. But I don't know if that's part of the Rangers like culture seeping in because everyone on that team's kind of doing that. But yeah, it is weird. I expect him to kind of do better rest of season, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to as well. I just think that unless there's like a big time injury underlying all of this that's like preventing him from shooting the puck and has been there all year, which would be kind of weird. I just think that we've got enough of a sample size on Vincent Trocheck to believe that things should turn around at some point here. All right, the big one, Dougie Hamilton, no points in forever. 23 minutes a night still, 61st in shots per 60, 83rd in individual expected goals for per 60, 22nd in on ice expected goals for per 60. He's not been getting power play 1. Shimon Nemec goes out, and Hamilton is still power play 2. It's Luke Hughes on the top unit with his brother. Where are we at with Dougie Hamilton, who is on a 10-goal, 20.82 game pace?
I think it's tough, a tough spot for Dougie Hamilton, despite his underlyings looking great. Like, he's off of PP1, which is really a lot of his value. I mean, he still gets the shots and stuff, but yeah, I'm pretty much all out on Dougie Hamilton. I kind of was from the start of the year because I thought that this was going to happen with Luke Hughes and his brother after all the comments that were made and the contract that they gave him. I think he's going to get dealt. It's tough with his limited team clause, or no trade team clause. So yeah, I don't, and even if like, where's he going to go that like gives him that value too, is really what I'm trying to figure out. But yeah, I'm pretty much out on Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, maybe the Leafs and the Devils can trade their underachieving multi-million-dollar defenseman. But other than that, I tend to agree. It's a tough spot for Hamilton. I talked about this. I'm pretty sure Blake and I talked about this scenario happening for potentially for Dougie Hamilton way back before the season started when we were doing our team previews. We were talking about the Devils, and I think I talked about it again with like that mushy middle of defenseman that Hamilton found himself in. And it's like, okay, you could have best case scenario, you could have Dougie Hamilton who shoots a lot, does some things for fantasy we really like, and he's on power play one, and he scores like he could score 60 points. Like that could happen in a best case scenario for Dougie Hamilton, or he could be power play two, less than 20 minutes a night, and he could be like a 35 40 point guy outside of the real good power play time. He's actually getting good minutes at this time, which is a little bit surprising, but he's still not producing. The underlines are fine. I think I'm just kind of recalibrating for myself mentally. Like, I think he's a fourth defenseman. Like, if you're talking about like a 12 team points league, I think he's just like the fourth defenseman on your roster. And he's in a slump right now, but like, are you really going to go pick up, like, is he any different than Matthias Ekholm, or is he any different from Neil Pionk, or is he any different from any number of defensemen who are rostered like 40% on Yahoo right now? I just think he's in that range, and he's got a little bit more upside than those guys still, so I'm probably going to hang on to him even if the points aren't coming right now, and even if it feels dire just because you're looking at these zeros game after game. I just tend to try to not let that cloud my decision making and just recalibrate where I'm at on the player. Do I think he's going to be a difference maker for my fantasy team anymore? No. Do I think that he's at least worth a roster spot? Probably, yeah. So I think I'm still holding him at least at this point until something else changes. All right, Nikita Kucherov next up. Just a 4 games played because he did miss that one. 7 assists in those 4 games. He's got a couple of assists again here tonight. Ho-hum day at the office for Nikita Kucherov. He doesn't even need to skate up and down the ice to get his points. He just exists and the players orbit around him. Second in the league in on-ice expected goals for per 60 in those 4 games. What else is new? 8th on the season. 114-point pace. That's actually down for him, so he definitely needed these 2 points tonight to bring that average up in the right direction again. I don't really have anything to say about Kucherov, to be honest. Like, what are we doing here? The guy's a stud. The only thing you can say is there some sort of thing that he's dealing with? And maybe there is, but every time he's on the ice, he's putting pucks in the net.
I think people are just upset that he missed a game and didn't get him like 3 or 4 points. So that's got to put him in the puzzlers.
Yeah. All right, Josh Norris next up. 2 goals, 3 points in his last 4 here. He also missed a game there with illness. Just under 18 minutes average time on ice. 276 shots per 60, not shooting as much. 195 individual expected goals for per 60, and 78th in on ice expected goals for per 60. The Sabres have been doing some stuff with the lines here from time to time. Tuck and Osland was the last line that Norris was on. Still in power play 1. If he's not going to get the Tage Thompson top line look, does that change your perception of Josh Norris in terms of the rest of season run out?
No, I don't think so. I really like Josh Norris if he can just stay healthy. I think he will get back up there with Tage once Zucker gets healthy too. There's no way Peyton Krebs stays up there. What are we talking about? Yeah, I mean, when he's on the ice, especially on the power play too, he's really been getting to work there. So yeah, I like Josh Norris.
Yeah, I'm pretty all in on Josh Norris when healthy as well. Gabe Landeskog, 1 goal, 4 points his last 5, over 19 minutes average time on ice, 65th shots per 60, 37th individual expected goals for per 60, 6th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Music to my ears. Love this guy. Gabe Landeskog, guy I was talking about ad nauseum earlier before the season got started. Power play 1, line 1 in the last game, and they just absolutely smoked the Minnesota Wild, who I guess, I hadn't heard this story, but I guess Jesper Wallstedt was talking some yang on the Colorado Avalanche, and, like saying like, because I don't even know what it was because of, but like I guess that means we're the better team, and then the Colorado took that personally, and the rest is history. Gabe Landeskog, part of that. And yeah, I mean, I love it while we're here, but as I mentioned before, like there is a real chance that we wake up 2 weeks from now and Landeskog is line 3, power play 2. It is just a potential variation on how Bednar does play out these lines. It does really feel like they run a bit more of a top 9 this year in Colorado than ever before, and so that is something to consider. At least now, while he's on line 1, while he's on power play 1, just enjoy it is what I'd say, though. You have anything different to say, Evan?
No, not really. I harbor a lot of resentment for Gabe Landeskog in my heart because I drafted him last year near the end of my draft to throw on an IR spot because I was told by Bednar that he was going to be back in October last year. And so I did that, thought it was a galaxy brain move, and he comes back and does it this year. So, but yeah, I think what's weird is that him and Val Nichushkin have a lot of the same game. I mean, Val's not as physical with the hits as Landeskog, but like they're both a net front guy. I think Val is definitely more skilled and has a better shot. I really do think he'd be the best for PP1, but yeah, as long as he's getting this deployment, he's an absolute must roster.
But who's the captain, Evan? Who's the captain?
I know, and who's got better hair? All these things.
All right, next up, Troy Terry. Just 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points in his last 5, 18 minutes a night still, 85th shots per 60, 55th individual expected goals for per 60, 179 in on ice expected goals for per 60 on the season, 23 goal, 80-point pace, almost 19 minutes average time on ice on the season. Do you have some concern for Troy Terry now with the downturn in production here?
No, I still think he's a great roster. 80 points might be a touch high, but with his start, I think it's certainly possible. And with the Ducks looking as potent offensively as they are, I really like Troy Terry.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine here. He might dip back down a little bit more towards the 75-point pace rest of season. But I don't honestly think, I think there's like a lull here. Sometimes you worry about teams hitting like a cliff, like going off the cliff. I don't think Anaheim's going off the cliff here. I don't think Joel Quenneville is going to let this team go off the cliff. I think he is like trying to get them to take the next step here. He's like, okay, we had a lot of fun, and now we got to try to win some close games. We got to learn to play some defense. We got to do things the right way a little bit. And so he's dialed back the fun just a little bit, and he's getting them to take the next step here. And I think they will. I honestly believe it. I think they got the personnel. I think they got a little bit of taste of it too. I think that goes a long way in a group like this, a young, hungry group like this. And I think that they're going to figure it out. And I think Troy Terry is absolutely talented enough to sustain this kind of pace. Jesper Bratt here, 2 assists in his last 5, just over 20 minutes average time on ice, 262 shots per 60, 200th individual expected goals for per 60, 31st in on ice expected goals for per 60. We talked about it a little bit before, but rest of season, Jack Hughes back in the fold. What are we thinking about Jesper Bratt?
Yeah, really like Jesper Bratt. I was trying to buy low on him in a couple spots, and some managers were telling me he's a 100-point player, and I was like, well, I don't know that he gets there this year, but I understand. You can just tell me that you're excited for Jack Hughes to be back. But yeah, no, really excited with him to get Jack Hughes and Gritsuk, like you said, back. I feel like that line's really going to cook. I also weirdly, like you said, without Jack Hughes last year, he was actually doing stuff and shooting the puck, scoring goals. With the Devils games that I've watched without Jack Hughes now, the guy sprints into the zone and then just turns around to look for a player to pass it to. And I'm like, dude, you can't just keep doing this every time. You got to shoot it sometimes. You have a look. So, but yeah, no, with Jack Hughes back, it's wheels up for Jesper Bratt.
Yeah, at least on the power play. I know he was playing with Hischier and Meyer on the last game. That'll change throughout the course of the year too. Brad will be back with Hughes, I'm sure, at some point as well. All right, let's go back to the comments, and then we'll close it out with the 5 last players. Hello, guys. Standard points keeper league. Been trying to get Marchenko to keep him, but the other general manager wants Keller and Dobson. Should I do it? Marchenko going to be better than Keller in the next few years. Your thoughts,
Evan? Let's see. Keeper league. I mean, how many do you get to keep? I don't know. Marchenko really a keeper? I don't know. That's kind of weird. I don't think that I would take Marchenko straight up for Keller. I just haven't seen enough out of him that I would say he's better than Clayton Keller. Clayton Keller's proven he's a 90-point player. So yeah, I would not do that. And I actually kind of like Dobson too.
All right. Puck Screws feels really good having picked up Radish. Do we think it's sustainable considering Hedman comes back in February? I guess we ride the train. Could you do a Radish point projection rest of the season? For myself, I think Radish has the inside track on remaining on Power Play 1 rest of season. So I think that sustains. The real question is even strength time on ice when Hedman returns. That'll obviously take a bit of a dip, I think. So I guess overall, I think that Radish is probably a 55-point defenseman in his current setup right now. Obviously, he's running even hotter right now. He's got 3 points in the game that's ongoing right now against the Blues. I mean, if you're shooting on Jordan Binnington, then you should probably expect to score 3 points every game. But I think that when Hedman is back, he probably takes a little bit of a step back. But my best guess right now is that he would take Power Play 1 still rest of season, and Tampa will be happy to have that working without the extra minutes for Hedman to skate. So I think that we probably get a little bit less there, take a little bit of a haircut. Maybe Radish goes down to like a 50-ish point pace, like just a little bit of a haircut rest of season once Hedman returns. Where are you at, Evan?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I also think that they really like that right-handed look on the power play now that Stamkos is gone. Like they put Oliver Bjorkstrand on there, which don't ask me why they do that because the guy. I mean, he has a power play golden night,
I
but
know, yeah.
he is god awful. Like they need to get Hagel up there and then just leave Radish at the point. But yeah, I tend to agree with your point production there.
Right. Next up, thoughts on Bussy and Hart. Are they new starters for the respective teams? I mean, yeah, they're getting most of the starts. I think that's what you call a starter. So they are goaltenders who are getting starts for their teams, and their teams are doing well at the moment. That's the most I can really say about goaltenders at the moment. Uh, I don't know. I can't bring it in myself to get too excited about either of these players. I don't know, Evan, you feel excited about either guy?
No, I kind of did on Bussy for a bit, but then I realized that it's Carolina, and even though they're goalies on Carolina, they still get shuffled around with Pyurko Chekhov. Anderson, I think, is projected to start tomorrow. So yeah, and then Aiden Hill might come back for Carter Hart. So yeah, I'm not really. I mean, ride the wave, while they're starting, but yeah, other than that, it's not much.
All right. Keepers League bangers. Keep four. Should I try and get DeBrinket for Norris and a second round pick? So a sixth round pick, essentially. DeBrinket for Norris and a sixth round redraft pick. Honestly, I don't know if I would. Like, I feel like if you're drafting really well, then you might be able to get the next year's DeBrinket with the sixth round pick. And Norris is performing, at least right now, like a sixth round pick in and of himself. Um, Generally, I like to get the best player in a deal like this. Um, but I don't know if this is like the deal that does it for me. Where are you at, Evan?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that second round pick is pretty high. I think if you could get that into a third round, maybe I think it'd be a little bit easier to swallow. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. I think you could get to Brinkett with that pick next year. I think if you're going for it this year and like you have a abundance of centers or something, or you're worried about Norris injury, you could do it. But yeah, I don't think it's a slam dunk. Absolutely do it.
My puzzling player for this week is Rick DiPietro. Just kidding, wondering about opinions on Dostal for the future. Rick DiPietro of the infamous 15-year contract in the NHL. One of the reasons that is no longer a viable option for teams. Opinions on Dostal. Yeah, I kind of mentioned what I thought of what Anaheim's doing right now and how they're trying to progress as a team. There'll probably be some growing pains with that, but I do think overall that that's probably positive for Dostal in the long term, and I think he's going to be a volume goaltender. So yeah, I think my overall thoughts are positive. How about you, Evan?
I really like Dostal. Got him in a few spots, and I'm loving it. I think, number one, I think he's a good individual goalie, and with the Ducks being better this year, I think that only means more wins for him as well.
Right. I have open spots left for goalie this week. Goals against are -2. Saves are 0.25. Wins are 2. Fowler, Markstrom, Ingram, Saros, Gibson are available. Be dropping Buchnevich. Any of these worth it. Goals against are -2 and saves are 0.25. So you need 8 saves to cancel out a goal against. That's actually pretty taxing on goaltenders. So it's not surprising that you have a fair amount of options out there. Um, Honestly, without knowing who these guys are potentially going to be playing, like I would do it matchup based in a league like this where you got to have the saves. It would be pretty matchup based. I'd be looking for teams to play against that generally shoot a lot, but definitely don't score a lot, obviously. Ideally, I'd be looking to play my goaltenders against maybe a team like Calgary a little bit, maybe a little bit of Pittsburgh, some of these teams that are capable of generating shots but don't have any big time shooters. Even Vancouver might fall into that category for me. I'd be looking to play goaltenders against teams like that. So, yeah, it would probably depend which of these goaltenders are playing teams like that for me to make that decision this week. How about you, Evan? Anybody jump out to you there?
I think number one with a bullet for me would be UC Soros. They play the Wild and then they play the Blues. So at least one of those games, he's going to get a win, if not a shutout. Um, uh, and I think I would not start Jacob Markstrom if my life depended on it. The guy's been, Swiss cheese in the net this season. Ingram, again, like his AHL stats have been really bad. I wouldn't trust it, and they may not even give him both starts. They are playing Calgary twice, Edmonton is. So they might give both to Pickard. And then Gibson is a good look as well because the Red Wings are going to play Dallas and Carolina. Dallas might light him up, but Carolina shoots so much that 40 shots might get him, the saves needed with 2 goals against. But yeah, I'd say Saros and then Gibson are my top 2 there.
All right. Trying to sort out goalies in wins, goals against average, save percentage, cats with 3-start men. Do you think Bussy is worth it, or go for a higher volume guy with situation and other red flags like a Demko or a Vmelka? Goals against average, save percentage. I think Demko's probably still my guy here. Yeah, because of that Carolina situation, I just don't trust. And I don't trust goaltenders in general. I think it's Demko for me here. Obviously, there are red flags, but again, I would kick him to the curb, and there are clearly options available to you out there that are fine options to roster at any given point throughout the year. So I think that's where I'm at. How about you, Evan?
Yeah, no, I agree. When did this become a goalie show, Nate?
Yeah,
I thought we were 0G,
just
but
since you came on the pod, apparently.
sorry, I apologize. Yeah, I would for sure go with Demko. He has 27 saves against the Flyers, only 1 goal against. I feel like the Canucks, as a team, are just more team unified now that this Quinn Hughes situation is sorted out. They're going to fall back down to earth in terms of wins, but Demko is still the best elite goalie out of these 3. Vmelka is a good option. I think he's going to get a lot of wins. He's leading the league for goaltender wins, but his numbers don't look great because Utah is really good at shot suppression, so he'll let in like 2-3 goals on 20 shots and still going to win.
Right. Kyle asked, do stats like expected goals overweight net front players? Do you ever take that into account when evaluating players like Hyman, G, Landeskog, etc.? So generally, yes, they do, and that's why I used individual scoring chances 4/60 for the longest time instead of expected goals 4/60 or high danger chances 4/60. Mark Barber 18 Skaters model does have some accountants for that, and that's why I actually trust it. It's more effective at reducing that and is actually more efficient at projecting goals than individual scoring chances 4/60, which was actually even more correlated to goals than Natural Stat Trick's own expected goals model. Go figure. So, yeah, all that to say, the expected goals model I'm using in the sheet here, I do trust. Other expected goals models, I don't really trust for basically this exact reason. Those kind of sets are the reason that people really thought Brady Tkachuk was going to have like a 50-goal year sometime when he's just really not that guy. Yeah, a lot of other players like that who are probably never going to get what you would expect to get from them based on those XG numbers. Winestar would love to hear about Braden Point, lol. Braden Point has actually not been that bad, my friend. Underlying numbers looking pretty good. Actual scoring some points, not in this particular game, but he's got 6 points in his last 5. I don't know why you're sad about that. Obviously, it'd be nice for him to get in on these 4 goals that the Lightning have scored against St. Louis tonight, but Braden Point is absolutely fine. Raymond for Nylander. Ooh, that's a that's a gutsy move to make right now, my friend. If you've watched William Nylander play hockey in the last month, you've been treated to some of the most disheartening hockey you've ever seen in your life. So, um, I like theoretically, yeah. Theoretically, I would rather have Nylander than Raymond. Do I believe that that's gonna work? I don't believe it right now in my heart of hearts watching William Nylander play. But if I wake up tomorrow and Craig Berube's fired, then let's talk again. All right, we got to close this out with the last five players here. Evan Kirill Marchenko, just one assist in his last five, 18 minutes average time on ice, 150th shots per 60, 244 individual expected goals for per 60, 228 on ice expected goals for per 60. What happened to the Kirill Marchenko who looked unstoppable at the beginning of the year, and how have they replaced him with this sleeper agent?
Yeah, I don't know. It is weird. He's not shooting as much, and I feel like Columbus as a whole has really struggled to score offensively, which is why they've shaken up the lines again. I almost wonder if they should go back to like Monahan, Marchenko, Voronkov as like a top line, and just kind of like, I mean, that line like the beginning of this year and last year was just caving other teams in. So why not go back to it? But yeah, it's interesting to see from Marchenko. I think he will ultimately get back to what we think he is. But yeah, it's definitely frustrating right now.
Yeah, I don't have a big time solution to offer for what's going on right now. The underlying numbers are not great. They were really good earlier on, and they've taken quite the downturn. I I agree. I believe it should get better because I believe in the player. I believe in what we saw with our eyes at the beginning of the season, how electric he was, how game breaking he was, and it's hard for me to believe that that's just gone. But at the same time, if he's not feeling it, he's not feeling it, and it's pretty clear that he's not feeling it at the moment. So, do think he's probably a bit of a buy low right now if he can. But yeah, sometimes some players are just like this too. Some players do just run super hot and super cold. So you have to at least weigh that as well. Jason Robertson, only 3 goals and 4 points in his last five. How will we survive? 18 and a half minutes average time on ice, 126 shots per 60, 83rd individual expected goals for per 60, 199 in on ice expected goals for per 60. Now just a 51 goal, 98 point pace on the season. Yeah, is the sky falling for Jason Robertson here, Evan?
Yeah, I think you should drop him. First in the league on the season for individual expected goals for 60. Here's a good question for you, Nate. But we might have even done this on the next show, but who would you rather rest of season? I know it's going to sound weird. Jason Robertson or Matt Boldy?
I'll take Robertson there. Yeah.
Agree.
Um, it's closer than I thought it would be, and obviously Hughes in Minnesota makes you believe in the offensive potential of that team a little bit more than you would have previously. But if I'm just looking at pure situation here, Jason Robertson, yeah, everything's lined up for him to go off. He's found his home, and he's back to the player he was 2 seasons ago. And yeah, it's not the A1 list 5 game stretch that he had previously, but it's still 3 goals and 4 points in 5 games. He'll be fine.
What a slump.
Adam Fantilli, 1 goal, 2 points in his last five, just under 20 minutes average time on ice, so still getting that deployment. 70th shots per 60, 111 individual expected goals for per 60, 121 in on ice expected goals for per 60. I honestly think those are probably the best numbers on the Blue Jackets over this last 5 games. So I don't know if he deserves a medal or what for that, those kind of numbers, but honestly, I don't think it's Fantilli's fault what's been going on lately.
Yeah, no, I really believe in the player. I think that once Columbus gets out of this offensive funk they're in, and Fantilli and Kirill Marchenko, number one and number two, to get back to their scoring ways.
Agreed. Josh Stone, just 2 assists in his last five now, over 18 minutes average time on ice, 220 shots per 60, 255 individual expected goals for per 60, and 64th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Still playing on that top line with Tage Thompson getting some top power play time as well. The on the season numbers, 27th shots per 60, 13th individual expected goals for per 60, 18th and on ice expected goals for per 60. Just terrific for Josh Stone. I tend to think that this is a bit of a blip for him, and it should come back up maybe when Peyton Krebs is no longer his center. Um, yeah, I really like Josh Stone. I really do think he's taken a bit of a step this year. That being said, it's the first time we're really seeing this out of Josh Stone. Would it be shocking if he didn't quite live up to that for the rest of the season? No, it wouldn't. So I'm still watching, but I do tend to believe in the player we saw earlier on. Anything to add on Josh Stone?
No, I agree. I think it's weird. Like Buffalo has like a ton. Their top six has a ton of rosterable players based on what they're doing so far. So you look at like Jason Zucker, you look at Josh Doan. I know it's been like not great recently. Even Zach Benson, when he got that look, was performing. He's probably the least that I believe in. But like, yeah, a lot of these guys are just kind of doing the thing. Josh Norris as well. So good stuff from Buffalo.
All right, Kevin Fiala, 2 goals, no assists in his last 5, 18 minutes average time on ice, 113 shots per 60, 74th individual expected goals for per 60, 133rd in on ice expected goals for per 60. I know we talked about him in comparison to some other guys here earlier today, Evan. Kevin Fiala, no two ways about it, in a tough place in a Jim Hiller-led offense. 29-goal, 55-point pace on the season now. Do we believe that it gets better for Fiala? I think from what you're saying, do you believe yes? If so, how much better?
I mean, I think he really is like a 70-point player. It's tough, like you said, being in this system. I think that's really what is inhibiting him from his offensive potential. And also kind of Byfield, like with how bad Byfield has been, like that line normally is the one that kind of drives the offense there. But out of the two players in LA, I would still have interest in it as, skaters. It would be Fiala and Kempe. So yeah, I believe there's better road ahead for Fiala, but yeah, it is tough in that system specifically.
Yeah, I think he can be better. I think the 9.2% on ice shooting percentage stands out as a pretty low number overall. I think that one can improve to like the 11% range. But that's still only going to get you over the 60-point mark and not by that much. So, yeah, that's kind of where you're at in this current iteration of the Los Angeles Kings. It's tough hockey to watch right now, to be honest with you. So, unfortunately for Kevin Fiala rosterers, of whom I am one, I don't think it's going to get that much better. I think it should get better, but by what order, what magnitude, I think it's a fair question. All right, we've yammered on long enough, Evan. Tell the people what you got cooking for trade talks.
Yeah, we're gonna have a trade talks episode tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. So go ahead and join us. Get in the Discord, send us your trades. We'll review them, give them trade grades, and then go over some players we'd like to target for potential buy low options. So yeah, go ahead and tune in tomorrow at 8:30.
All right, 8:30 Eastern trade talks. Last show before Christmas for all of us here at Apples and Ginos. Well, that is going to be all that we've got for this particular episode. Hopefully, it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick and 18 Skaters. Many thanks to Matt Creamer for supplying the music for the podcast. That's it, folks. Much love.